Hi, I'm Tara Lynn of Geek Saga Entertainment here with my co-host Manny for our April 2025 State of the Saga discussion.
Yes, and I'm Manny, and in these monthly update shows, we'll be talking about what we've been listening to, playing, reading, and/or watching, and possibly also just general stuff that's going on with our lives and maybe even recent pop culture happenings.
Before we get started, just a heads up that you can follow me and therefore all of the Geek Saga endeavors at a Geek Saga on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube.
And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Manissimo Art.
Just a couple other house cleaning items before we dig in. First, thank you to any patrons who are joining us for the patron-only live stream version of this month's State of the Saga. Second, thank you also to any patrons watching the week later release of the live stream recording. You guys are such a big part of helping us keep the lights on, so to speak, for Geek Saga Entertainment, and we truly appreciate each and every one of you and the support you give. Finally, if you're listening to this recording once it's gone public as a podcast only, pretty please make sure to hit those like and or subscribe buttons. And if you're catching it somewhere where you can give it a rating, it would really help us out if you could mark it 5 stars. Also, if you aren't already part of our Patreon family, please check out our sponsorship options. For just $5 a month, you can watch our State of the Saga episodes live, join in the live chat if you want, while for just $3 a month, you get early access to these episodes and all of our podcast episodes. Check it out at patreon.com/geeksaga_entertainment.
And with all that out of the way, we're going to get into our discussion. We're going to kick this month's episode off with news and/or general gossip.
What have you been up to?
I'm learning this new system at my job. So I've literally been writing manuals to educate these other people who actually use it on the back end side. So that's like the only thing that I've been doing like all week aside from just my regular stuff. I guess I'm just an education writer now. So I'm going to do this.
Yeah,
So,
I've been there.
Yeah. It's cool. It's learning something new and it's, expanding horizons, blah, 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 career, blah, 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 blah. But aside from that,
on your LinkedIn.
Yeah, exactly. Put it on my LinkedIn. Is it just me or does LinkedIn just seem like a cult? It just seems like a cult to me. There's something weird about it.
It is a little bit. I'll be honest though, I got both of my most recent jobs, the one I'm in currently and the one I had right before that, through LinkedIn recruiters. So I know it doesn't work for everybody. My industry is very niche. My day job industry is very niche, but it's worth being active if you think you're ready for a change. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I'm not very active on it, but I don't know. I'm literally like a blue collar kid in the white collar kind of world. It's really strange, but still, enjoy working with any of those people any day. So helping them out, doing that kind of stuff. And that's really what my entire week has been looking like, man. I haven't really sat down to play a video game or anything. I mean, some, but not my usual. Put on the headphones and zone out and start writing, man. That's pretty much what I've been up to. I did go to a concert last week, though. Did we talk? We didn't talk about that the last time.
No, not really.
I went to a concert. Yeah. There is this band that some people will know, some people won't, but they're called Queensryche. They were really popular back in the 90s. And they made this album that I feel is so applicable to today. And it's called Operation Mindcrime. It's about like revolutionary stuff, societal, like corruption, political corruption, religious corruption. And it's about this. It was written in 89. And I feel like it's so applicable today to what's going on. And I've been listening to this album has been in my rotation probably for 30 years now. Like seriously, like 30 years. I listen to it at least once a month. And that band had broken up. There was like a contentious breakup there. And the lead singer, the one thing that he got to have was this album. So he's going around the country and doing this album as a concert one last time. So this was like my last shot to actually get to see them live because I'd never gotten to see them live. A friend of mine for Christmas, my friend Chris, surprised me and bought me tickets to it. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? And like, dude, I was in that crowd and I felt like I was 14 years old, 13 years old. So into it, and it was really awesome. And I really expected to get an elbow in the face or get run over. For people who are watching, they probably don't realize that I'm a small person. I've got a big voice, but I'm a small, tiny person. I was expecting to elbows, but dude, everybody there was like in their 60s. And I was like, man, I hope everybody has health insurance because this looks like but nothing. It was me and like my friend and 2 other people next to us. And we were like the life of the concert. We were jumping up and down. We were freaking out. We were screaming and we were yelling. Everybody else is just like, I'm like, guys, I know we're all old. However, Yeah, but that's been on my mind all week. I've been thinking about that all week because it was just such an amazing concert. Last time I felt that excited about something was when I was young, like really young. I was 14, I think, or 13, and I went to Lollapalooza 92 when Pearl Jam played, and I was really into Pearl Jam because that was when they first came out. And when they hit the stage, everybody started bouncing around, and it was chaos. And doing it this time with this, that's what it felt like. It was that same feeling, and it was so cool, man. It was awesome. I loved it.
I'm not a huge concert person, and the only time I ever remember feeling like that at a concert, and I've been to some great concerts, but I was like up on the floor in like a close section at a Muse concert way back in 2010.
Muse is good, yeah. I like Muse is great.
Yeah, and I've seen them twice live. The second time they weren't as good, and like so it was Silver Sun Pickups and Muse. And it was in Atlanta. That was a fucking great concert.
Oh, no kidding.
At what is it, Gwinnett Stadium? Does that sound familiar?
Oh yeah, the Gwinnett Stadium, yeah.
But anyway, that was like 15 years ago. And what have I been up to recently? Nothing the past week, but it's been about a month since we did our last State of the Saga. Obviously, that's the whole deal with these. And a couple weeks ago, Dean and I went to the Amy Sherman Palladino Multiverse panel that was part of this thing called Paley Fest. The Paley Center is like an arts and media center I think the actual Paley Center is located in Century City in LA, but the panels for Paley Fest, they stretch over 2 weeks, and there's like a couple a day on the weekends, and there's also ones that happen on weekday evenings, which for us like would never happen because my God, it should only take us an hour to get to Hollywood, but it took us an hour and 50 minutes to get there.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But anyway, so the panels for Paley Fest stretch over a couple weeks, and they all focus on usually like TV shows that are currently out or have just finished. But the Amy Sherman Palladino one, she has a new show. So she did Gilmore Girls and Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She also wrote for Roseanne way back in the day. That was her first writing job. And then she's got a new show coming out on Amazon Prime called Étoile. It's like a ballet show. It's still supposed to be like comedy or whatever. But yeah, like I'm a huge Gilmore Girls fan, and Dean and I are both huge Marvelous Mrs. Maisel fans.
Oh, yeah.
It was a great panel. Honestly, like seeing Amy Sherman Palladino herself, like the creator there, with some of the bigger stars from her shows. Rachel Brosnahan, who played Miss Maisel, was there, and Alex Borstein.
Oh, I love Alex Borstein.
Yeah. Oh, she was freaking hilarious, by the way. Because like in Marvelous Mrs.
Maisel,
she's like this little lesbian, and she dresses like a dude and everything. So she struts onto the stage at this Paley Fest panel in a freaking corset with her tits pushed up, like tits up, guys, tits up. Like the sparkly jacket. I mean, she looks so great, and it was just so funny because of her character in Marvelous Miss Maisel. But it was a really great time.
She was in Mad TV like back in the 90s.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, and that's when I like got into her because I was like, dude, she's so funny, dude.
I mean, she's been the voice of Lois in Family Guy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
25 fucking years now or whatever it is. The funniest part about being in the audience, I guess, is that in a thing like this, like I'm clapping and stuff like that. But Dean, every time they did like a Marvelous Mrs. Maisel thing, he's like, woo! Like a little kid. I was like, oh, babe.
Because that show, I'm sorry, that show was amazing. I loved that show. It was so good.
It was so great. It was so great. So yeah, that was a really fun. And also it was cool because they held it in the Dolby Theater, which is where they hold the Oscars. So it was neat to like go to an event in the theater where they hold the Oscars. Although I'll be honest, that theater is dingy as fuck.
I believe it.
The armrests are like, I don't know if you see this desk, right, that I'm sitting at. This is a built-in desk in our late 80s or early, maybe late 90s home. I don't know when this is. Sometime, I think it's 90s home in California, but it's like, this is orangey, shiny wood. Like the arms on the chairs in the Dolby Theater are and it's just, it's dingy, man. And it was only built in like the late 90s or something. They've only been hosting the Oscars there since like 2001. I was like, wow, okay, cool to have done the thing. Particularly as like we're moving out of California soon, but like also, okay, this is where they have the Oscars. Okay.
It was one of those I was there moments.
I do have one little rant that I wanted to get out of the way. I wanted to talk about it in the March episode and we went a little long, but I wanted to like just get it off my chest. And it's about something I watched, but it doesn't quite go in our watching section because it was over a month ago, probably 2 months ago now. And it's less about what I watched and more about me just generally being annoyed about something that I had to Google or that I did Google because of what I watched. So I watched the first season of Alone Australia. You know the show Alone?
Oh yeah.
It's,
Oh,
you know, survival show. They take 10 people, stick them out in the wilderness with, you know, they give them a big list of things they can choose from, but they get very little in the way of supplies, whatever. I watched the first season of Alone Australia, and spoiler alert, a woman wins. Dean and I have watched a few seasons of the, I guess, like North America based on, you can't even call it US because half the fucking seasons take place in Canada. I actually think most of them take place in Canada, but I had Googled it before, and it was like the only woman to ever win an Alone show was someone who did one of the follow-ups. She had not won her original season, but then they brought people back for this like Alone Frozen, and she won that, which like honestly, huge kudos to her because she also had one of the longest days ever, and it was like way tougher than most seasons of the show even are, and it's already really fucking tough.
Yeah.
But anyway, so a woman wins Alone Australia, and this was filmed in like 2021 and came out in 2022 maybe, or maybe late 2021. But if you Google anything along the lines of has a woman ever won Alone, all of the results are like, well, no. But a woman did win Alone Frozen, and she was the first woman to ever win Alone, which is true. She was, because Australia took place like a year later. But also articles from like 2024 that have bylines saying the only woman to ever win Alone exist. And they're only ever talking about this Alone Frozen person. And I get Australia is maybe like technically a spinoff, but it should still fucking count. I don't know. I've been mad about this for like months, and I'm going to probably continue to be mad about it.
Yeah, look, man, I'm totally on board for venting about weird stuff like that. But yeah, it makes sense. It's like if the game is running on the same parameters as the other one, it doesn't matter if it's a spinoff. It should all count as the same. Aside from some maybe saucy attitudes, like Australians aren't much different than Americans or Canadians or South Americans. People are just people. If you were a woman and you happened to win the one that was in Alone Mongolia, yeah, then guess what? That's a female winner. Yeah, absolutely. First female winner, whatever.
I also feel like this season of Alone Australia was in like the very bottom of Tasmania, but also Australia is like literally known for having like the most poisonous things. So personally, I think it should sure as hell count as much. But also, come on. Anyway, like I said, I've been mad about this. I didn't get to talk about it in our March episode, so I wanted to get it off my chest now.
It should count more for her, though, right? If it's like Australia has very harsh climate. I mean, can you imagine like, oh, Alone Key West? It's like, dude, come on. You know, it's not the same. That's a harsh climate. Kudos on her. Good for her.
On a more positive note, this is something I read like a week ago. I've been watching White Lotus season 3. It just wrapped up. I'll talk a little bit more about it in our watching section. This is more like a newsy thing, though. I had read some things. The White Lotus cast all gets paid exactly the same amount. And their billing, like in the intro and stuff, is done alphabetically. And it's been this way since the beginning, like since season 1. And I fucking love this for them. They have a lot of big names in there. This season, it's like you've got Jason Isaacs, and then you've got some sort of like say nobody actor playing a part that's half the importance of his character, but they're all getting the same amount per episode.
That's really cool.
Also, funnily enough, this made me like think about the cast list, and they really like people, or at least women anyway, with alliterative names. Like Sydney Sweeney, Carrie Coon, Michelle Monaghan, Parker Posey. I don't know, I don't know if it's like they really like people, especially women with alliterative names, or I just never paid attention to the number of actors with alliterative names, which now that I think about it is surely done on purpose. A lot of actors, their legal born as name isn't the name they are billed under a lot of the time. So it could be some of that. They're choosing these alliterative names because they're more memorable, let's be real. But anyway, newsy stuff. I know you had a couple things you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, this was one that I was very cautious about when I heard that they were making a new Tron movie, because Tron is one of my most beloved IPs. I love it so much. When they did the second one, a lot of people didn't like it. They said it was slow. They said it was whatever. But honestly, I fucking loved it. I'm still so into that movie. I still watch it. Like when I'm doing art, I'll put it on in the background and stuff like that. There's like 2 art movies that I put on when I'm doing art. Tron Legacy, and then you have Blade Runner 2049, right? Those are the 2 movies that I always put on anytime I'm doing art. So when they said they were making a third one, I was like, cool. And then they were like, yeah, but it's not going to have to do with what had happened in part 2. Then I'm like, guys, come on. let's just keep some kind of consistency here. Like, we don't need a reboot. This doesn't need a reboot. Everybody knows what Tron is at this point, regardless of what age you are, because the Tron characters and story has shown up in Kingdom Hearts. It's shown up in video games. It's shown up from the newer movie. Everybody knows what Tron is now. So when they said it was a third one, I was like, okay, I'm okay with the third one, but at least take into account the events that happened in part two. And then the next piece dropped that just terrified me, which is that it was going to be starring Jared Leto.
Yeah, honestly, when I saw your notes here, that was my first thought. I don't like him. He's a bad person, and I don't really want to watch anything that he's in.
Cult leader. He's just a cult leader, and he was in Blade Runner also, in the Blade Runner 2049. And yeah, I get it, that type of actor or whatever, you know, what do they call them? Actors who get into their role and they stay in their role.
Method actors.
Method actors. Okay, so I get it, method actor, whatever. But he just comes off as very pretentious to me. I really don't like him. He is a good actor. You know, I'll give him that he makes his parts believable. However, I'm trying to get past the fact that he is in this. But either way, so I saw the trailer, and the trailer actually looks like it's taking a really good turn, where I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this actually could be a really good movie. And then it's like, well, how can you tell me that it's not going to take into account the stuff that happened in the last movie? Because now the programs are escaping and they're in the real world now, which is what the two main characters did, Flynn's son and Cora, did at the end of the second movie, because Cora is a program and she came out. So I was like, okay, cool. So now it's like, maybe she opened up the floodgate and now all these things. So there's a lot of really cool imagery in it. The Tron cycles on the road and the cops chasing it, and it puts the little beam out and splits the car in half. I was like, oh, okay. And there was cool things with like shooting missiles, and the program airplanes like do the thing also, and they fly in front of the missile and it blows it up. And I'm like, oh, this is like Tron, but like in the real world. So getting past the Jared Leto thing, I'll have to admit, I kind of jumped back on the hype train for this, to where I'm like, okay, you know what? I think I can do this. So that is the number one movie I'm probably looking forward to this year so far. I don't think there's anything else coming out that I'm excited about, just because Tron is a childhood favorite.
What year did the first one come out?
It's like 81 or 84, I think, or was it 82? I was really
I think it might have been 82, honestly.
Yeah, I think it was too.
This is the year I was born. So I didn't see it till I was in college, but don't get me wrong, I love the first Tron. And the second one I thought was fine. I think that for what it was good. I will not pay money to go see this one because I refuse to pay money to see anything that has Jared Leto in it. But I will watch it for sure as soon as it's available for not money.
Streaming, and that's probably what I'm going to wind up doing also, because I don't want to give him money either. He's just weird. He just comes off as just weird. I'm not down.
He's apparently terrible to his fellow cast members, and
I believe it. Yeah, absolutely believe it. He seems like that kind of guy.
I actually saw you post about seeing the Megan 2.0 trailer.
Okay, so
I haven't watched it yet, but the trailer. Okay. I mean, I saw the Megan movie.
So the Megan movie was like funny. It was, you know, like Blumhouse, when they do these horror movies, they've been doing such a good job with them to where they make them very entertaining. I think it was them that did the Five Nights at Freddy's also, I think.
I don't know for sure. I've definitely watched a fuck ton of Blumhouse movies though. So
yeah, but they're always really good at what they do. So when they did the like Megan one, I'm like, oh, this is really funny, because people would comment. They're like, man, she looks like one of your dolls that you have, you know? And I'm like, oh,
that is
how
so
funny
true.
would it be, you know? I got hyped on it and I watched it, and it was just so ridiculous that I loved it. I was like, this is so dumb. I love this so much. And then the second trailer comes out, and now they're going like Leprechaun in the Hood style, to where it's like, dude, this is not even a horror movie anymore. It is now turned into like an action type of sci-fi movie, like where they're changing the direction completely. And they bring Megan back, and it's like, now she's going to fight off this other evil robot and stuff. And I'm like, dude, this is fantastic, because I love it when movies don't take itself too seriously and they lean into the chaos. And that's what this movie's doing. So I'm like, I'm watching this. Absolutely. This is horror movie just going silly. Perfect. I love it.
Now that we've talked about things we have watched and trailers and stuff, what have we been watching, like actually watching?
I'm still working my way through The Boys. Just started season 4. I think I'm a few episodes into season 4 now. A little bit of a different vibe, but totally feeling it.
And you have Gen Z after this too.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Gen V, I'm sorry. Gen V, not Gen Z. Wrong Gen. Yeah,
no. So that show, again, the writing on it, which is like so good. It's so fucking sad, because the character of Homelander, he's a piece of crap and he's a piece of shit. When you really take a step back and look at his character, you almost have to kind of feel sorry for this guy. And you're like, okay, I see what led you all the way here. You took a wrong turn somewhere, but there's like I don't know, there's like a sympathetic part of me, empathetic part of me, where I'm just like, dude, I feel bad for the fucking guy. He just didn't have any good friends growing up. What do you expect when you put a baby in a little romper room in its entire life and give it no love and no affection, and you expect it to to be this superhero and then give it love and he's going to give you love and affection. I don't think I'd be doing terrible things like him, but I'd probably burn a hole or two through a few buildings. But it's just good writing that they even get you to think in kind of in that direction. And it's not blatant, like that's what they're trying to do. It's like you're just kind of going down that road on your own. That's all I can say about that. But yeah, it still got me. I thought after the first few seasons, I'd get bored with it and be like, all right, whatever. Because, every show has got like that weak season or a few weak seasons. And then it's just like, I can't. People drop off at that.
I do think they're getting away from that a little with streaming. Well, unless you're like D&D with Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more solid shows out there that they might have some crappy episodes and they might have a season that's not as good as the others, but it's not like
crappy seasons,
oh God, like I just don't even want to watch this entire season sort of situation. So picking up from what I talked about last month, I mentioned that I was watching season 2 of Severance. It did end, and I'm honestly not sure how I feel about season 2 of this show, which is apparently a common thread in the fandom. And I don't want to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't seen it because like it's still, this show is so good and it's definitely worth watching. But also there was a shy of a month at most 3-year gap between season 1 and season 2. I really hope that Ben Stiller, who's like the kind of main producer or whatever, was telling the truth recently when he said that it would not be another 3-year wait for season 2. And I know that like the writer's strike for sure had to have had something to do with that. But honestly, if it is that long, it might like just not turn me off the show entirely, but I sure as hell will not be like re-upping. I'm still paying for Apple TV Plus because I'm still watching some shows on there. I'm getting to the point where I'm almost ready to cancel it for a while. And I would definitely consider re-upping it for Severance season 3. Not if it's I think even 2 years might break me. At that point, I'll figure out another way to watch it. We'll put it that way, because I'm just really tired of these ridiculously long waits between seasons of shows. See Stranger Things, which like I'll watch eventually when it comes out on Netflix, but I'm pretty much over it. And I have been over it. And I'm only going to watch it to just be like, well, I finished it.
Look at when we do Hot D Takes, right? That's the only time I have an HBO subscription. I have it for that run. And then it's like, okay, well, I just cancel it. I'm the same way. And I understand that, it's done differently today, right? Because back when we were younger, you would only wait about 6 months really before the next season came out. There wasn't a huge span of time. And then it's like, okay, there's a year. I remember complaining with Game of Thrones and being like, oh, there's a 1-year gap. And then with House of the Dragon, it was just like, wait a minute, I got to wait 2 fucking years? Like, are you kidding me, dude? There's some characters on there that are getting old, man. I guess what I think it comes down to is my own personal, probably incorrect concept, okay? I think that the studios are so scared and they're so chicken that they don't believe in their own product that they're trying to produce. Because if they did, the second House of Dragon finished, then they would have already have been starting on the next season and said, okay, then that way we have a year to work on like post. We have a year to work on post, but at least we have it filmed already. Everybody's still fresh. We don't have to like get the mothballs out of these outfits that are going to be sitting for 2 years, and they can start working immediately. And every show back in our time was always like that. By the time we were in the middle of that season, the second season was already, or the next season was already in like post at that point. And I feel like a lot of stuff today, this is where I feel like, honestly, that streaming has ruined everything. I love the concept of streaming, but I feel like it's ruined everything.
It's barely that anymore because all of the streaming services have gone back to weekly releases anyway. And half of them have fucking commercials, which I think we talked about that a little bit last time.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. There's something, I think once things got out of like the regular cable realm and walked more into streaming, I feel like we've been really kind of paying the price with having to wait, or these streaming services giving up on shows way too early.
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh, it didn't have a good season, so we're just going to like get rid of it. It's like, why don't you take a chance? How many shows back in the 90s of the first few seasons were garbage, but then the rest of the show was amazing?
Well, and then sometimes it's like a show doesn't do all that well or isn't all that great. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, but the live action Avatar: The Last Airbender, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever watched, but it wasn't great. And I fucking love ATLA. It's one of my top shows ever. The live action, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. And they like renewed it for season 2, I think, right away. And I was like, really? I thought it was going to go the way of the Cowboy Bebop live action, honestly.
But I think what it comes down to when it comes to something like that is I feel like it's almost in the merchandising. There is so much Avatar merchandising out there that they're going to keep it going because the longer that show is on, whether it's good or bad, it's going to get merchandise. So the same thing with One Piece. One Piece, fantastic. I was not a One Piece fan. I didn't watch the comic.
I tried watching the anime and I could not get into it, but the live action was amazing. Yeah.
10 out of 10, absolutely loved it. Yep. And that's what made me more angry at the Cowboy Bebop writers, because I was like, dude, how did these people get it? This is a show that is so ridiculous. And I am loving this. I felt like a 5-year-old watching that entire show. I was on board. I wanted to be a pirate. I wanted to go out with these people and be on and I wanted to be on adventures. Cowboy Bebop just made me angry because it was casted perfectly, and the writing, it's like, guys, this would have been the easiest win for you guys. The easiest win, and you didn't do it. But even in saying that, I wouldn't have given up. I would have gave it a season 2 and been like, okay, let's just course correct a little bit and let's keep going. But again, Cowboy Bebop, no merchandise. They got rid of it. And then you have Avatar, ton of merchandise. Let's keep it going because we can push more merchandise, right? Because most people that watch Cowboy Bebop are like of the older generation. They like music. They like jazz. You know, these are guys who are in dive bars. These are not guys who are necessarily buying action figures, you know? Avatar people generally are because they're a little younger. They're like, oh yeah, we want this kind of stuff. And One Piece is just the best group of just amazing crackheads ever. And I'm totally a part of it. I'm part of that venture now, or I'm like, I'm in on this. And I can't wait for season 2. And I hate that they're even taking this long for it. And literally, I walked into that show because I was going to write a review about it. And I was like, I'm going to watch the show for 15 minutes and I'm going to take a huge shit all over it. That's what I'm going to do. That was my goal of the night. So I cracked open a beer. I'm like, I'm going to fucking give it to these guys with my cynical, self. Here we go. Dude, 3 episodes in, I was like, holy shit. Wow, this is not what I expected. This is so good.
Yeah, it was really good. Anyway, so like other things I'm still watching that I mentioned last month, I've continued watching the Daredevil Born Again show. I did not watch it this past week because Dean is away. Same reason Yellow Jackets, I want to say this week, Thursday or yesterday, was the season finale of Yellow Jackets, but I think I'm 2 episodes behind on Yellow Jackets again because Dean is away. I watched the season finale of White Lotus without him because I knew I was going to get spoiled for it if I didn't. Yeah. And because I follow too many people who just post spoilers literally like during the episode. So, and also season 3 of White Lotus was fine. Season 1 is still the best. Season 2 was good. Season 3 wasn't bad. It just wasn't, I didn't care as much about the whole ending. I think some of it is that it was almost like too jaded, which is weird because that's the whole point of White Lotus is like, it's not even like there's a little bit of mystery. There's from the first episode of each season, you already know that there is a murder that has happened, right? Or is happening. But this season felt somehow even more jaded than the previous ones, which I like did not really need because another one I mentioned last month that I needed to pick up was season 2 of 1923. And I did. It just wrapped up. Sunday was the season finale. So I haven't seen the season finale, but what I had seen so far, which was all but the season finale, it's been like a fucking doozy. At one point, Dean and I had to just take a breather because it was like just trauma dump after trauma dump in these episodes. And I get it. Listen, it's like the 1920s. Like you expect, it's not great. Like you're supposed to expect people to be dying and everything. It's still a good show. But also it was like, oh my God, it's like too much right now. And that's how I kind of felt about the end of White Lotus season 3. So, and then lastly, I started a rewatch of Treme, which is on HBO a long time ago. Like I'd seen the show before years because it aired from like, I don't know, 2010, 2011, 2012-ish. It's like 4 seasons, but the 4th or 3 seasons, maybe whatever it is, either 3 or 4 seasons. And the last season is very truncated. Like it's only 6 episodes. The finale, the series finale is long. It's like 2 episodes worth of length, but Treme, it's set in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. It's really fucking good, but also very depressing, which is why I'd started my rewatch a long while ago. Like I'm talking like a year or more ago. And I got through like a season and a half and I was like, nah, I can't. I know what happens and I can't right now. But I finally picked it back up and I don't know, just once again reminded of how totally underrated this show is. The music is fucking amazing. The acting is like pretty good on like for the most part. And some of that is actually kind of interesting because they have several recurring characters who are actually just locals from New Orleans. And then they have people, there's at least 2 people who starred in it who are from New Orleans, who one of them may or may not have been an actor, for sure a musician before, but one of them, I don't think she was an actor before Treme. And she was actually suggested to the showrunners because she was a local who was featured heavily in Spike Lee's When the Levees Broke documentary back right after Katrina. It's a really fucking good show. I do wish the ending hadn't felt as rushed as it does, but I don't know. I'm glad I finally finished my rewatch because it had been so long. I mean, over 10 years, I think, since I watched it, that I was like, oh, it's depressing at times, but it has some really fucking uplifting moments too. And the music is amazing. I've been on a huge fucking New Orleans kick. We're going to talk about reading next. And my whole thing about what am I reading is just still reading a lot of books based in or about New Orleans.
I've just been reading my own work because I have to edit it and make sure that that's the only reading I've been doing this week. That's it.
So the Sunrise on the Reaping, the new Hunger Games prequel book, came out, I want to say last month. And I was about to pre-order it and I was like, shit, Cam, did you pre-order this? Because like that's what happened with the previous one. I was about to order it and then it came in the mail for Cam and I was like, oh, I'll just read it when you're done. So for the Sunrise on the Reaping, I was like, I'll just wait until Cam has finished reading it and I'll read. But then I asked him like a week ago, I was like, so have you read Sunrise on the Reaping yet? He's like, nah, I'm busy. I don't feel like reading right now. So I waited a few days and I was finishing up my current book, which is another like New Orleans based book. And I was like, hey, so, can I like read Sunrise on the Reaping first if you're not to read? So that's my next read. So I'm sure I'll have something to say about it next month. But I'm still reading a lot, just nothing overly mentionable. What I talked about last month was kind of, it's all the same similar path. Yeah. Playing, nothing for me.
Nothing for you.
No, I kept telling myself with Dean out of town for some family stuff this past like week plus that I was going to like get on Red Dead at the very least. And then I was like, that involves work. And instead I just sat and like Cam and I have watched a bunch of stuff. Like we watched Princess Diaries, both Princess Diaries movies because Cam likes them and let's be real, they're great. And then not to go back into watching. And then he got me into Sword Art Online. I forgot to mention that in the watching.
Oh yeah. Sword Art Online. Yeah.
But so yeah, that kind of was like, if it wasn't Cam and I watching something together, it was me sitting on the couch reading in quiet, which is also kind of nice.
It is nice. Yes.
So, but you've been playing stuff still.
I'm still playing the same games. I'm playing Stellar Blade still. I love it. But it's one of those games that's just like, it's open world. When I finally decide to pick up Red Dead again, like I know that I'm going to be playing it for like the next like 6 months, right? Because those are games, those are not 40-hour games. Those are 100, 200-hour games. The Stellar Blade game is just like that. It is literally, it's probably a 100-hour game. And I got into this one right after I'd finished that second Final Fantasy VII one from the remake. And that was another game that I spent like 100 hours on. So I'm like, dude, I need to find games that are just, I'll keep with them and I'll play them, but it just takes me a long fucking time. It's not like how I used to be, where back in the day, man, I would sit in front of a video game and I would play for like 7 hours. I can't do that anymore. I'll do like 2 hours maybe, like at the most. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to take a break. And then I kind of stop. Even though I love, because I feel like long games, to me, Red Dead Redemption is like $100 video game to me personally, because the amount of time and the amount of stuff that you can do in it is going to last you $100 worth.
Oh, way more. You know? Like,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
But my God, I basically, the weekend it came out, I had friends visiting from out of town because it came out like the weekend before Halloween in 2018. So I didn't get to start playing it till Sunday night of that weekend when everybody had left. And from then until I think I finished my first like full playthrough the very, very end of 2018, like the last day or so. I had a week off where I went on vacation for my birthday. Other than that, I was playing it every single day, sometimes for like an hour, but sometimes for like 6 to 8 hours. After that, I started playing Red Dead Online, and that was like my fucking life for a long time.
Red Dead 2 to me is probably one of the best video games ever made, easily.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
It's definitely the like apex of it's like the apex of video gaming, where I'm just like, this is exactly, if you're into narrative stuff, but then you're into open world, so you can kind of be yourself in a game. I'm like, this is it right here. I mean, and I tell people that to this day when they want to get into like those type, I'm like, dude, Red Dead 2. I'm like, don't play anything else. You want something that's narrative, something that's open world, something that'll make you feel like you're part of the story. Do that right there.
Yeah, 1000%. All right. So listening. So one thing I mentioned last month was a podcast I have been listening to for like a year-ish or so now, which is the Girls Next Level podcast about, it's two of the girls from the Girls Next Door show, which was like an quote unquote reality show about
Mhm.
the three girlfriends of Hugh Hefner back in the early 2000s. And I mentioned last month that the episode I had just listened to was one where at the beginning, one of the hosts compared people vandalizing Teslas to hate crimes. Like basically said it's a hate crime for people to
No.
vandalize Teslas
Mhm, mhm,
right
mhm.
now. And I was just like, oh no. Oh, please, no, no, no. I almost never comment. I was listening on Spotify. I almost never comment on like people's podcast episodes unless it's like
Mhm.
a friend or something. And I commented and I was like, please apologize for this. Like, this is a bad comparison.
No.
And there were tons of other comments saying the same exact
Mhm.
thing. And of course, my comment, I got a bunch of reacts and a whole bunch of them were angry reacts. And I was like, are you kidding me, people? Like, are you kidding me? I don't know. Like, I don't care. Like, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't hurt my feelings that people didn't like my comment. They've let out 2 episodes since then. And I know that I think they record at least 2 episodes at a time, but they've definitely recorded since then. There was no mention of or apology for the hate crimes
Mhm.
comment. So I was like, I'm over it. I'm over it. You guys really have me sucked into your podcast. I was almost about to pay for your Patreon, honestly, because they do a bunch of extra stuff on their Patreon and it's only a couple bucks a month. But I was like, nope, now I'm not getting any of my money.
Yeah, exactly. And to say that it's a hate crime is just disgraceful, honestly.
Anyway, on a more positive note, what else have I been listening to? Music wise, I actually have started listening to more music than I usually do. A lot of jazz, funk, bounce, brass band music, which I've always loved. But basically, if it came from New Orleans, it's been on my playlist the past few weeks, especially thanks to the aforementioned rewatch of
Mhm.
Treme. And then actually this week, I finally found another True Blood podcast because the Truest Blood podcast, which was like the official one
Mhm.
that was started just a few years ago, actually, that had some of the actors as hosts. I mentioned it in our last State of the Saga episode. Like it was
Mhm.
good, but it was really rushed. They covered like every episode of the first season, but then they were like, oh, season 2. Now it's only like 5 episodes of the podcast and they're not going episode by episode. Then season 3 was like, we've got like 4 episodes and it kept getting less and less. It was very rushed at the end. I was kind of
Mhm.
like, well, I'm going to finish it because I do like their production stuff and the fact that the actors talk about their personal experiences. But I finally like was searching for another podcast to listen to the other day and found a podcast called Fang Bangers. Anyway, what have you been listening to?
Dude, I've been listening to a lot of stuff this week. Very eclectic. It's not the typical just lo-fi all day. I went back and listened to like the synthwave. I've been talking to a friend of mine and we were exchanging music. So she introduced me to like a bunch of this like new music that I'm trying to like deconstruct right now. So it's a lot of new stuff. But one thing we were talking about was like night drives. Like when you take night drives, like what embodies that music? So it's like got into like this like synthwave conversation. So I've been listening to like a ton of synthwave. But then on top of it, on the flip side of it, man, it's like I've been listening to just, maybe it's because I went to that concert, but I've been listening to like my old Soundgarden albums, Pearl Jam albums, Nirvana, like all these like older bands that I'm like, man, I haven't listened to this stuff. I mean, I don't know how long, and I don't know. I've just been going, Mother Love Bone, like who else, Alice in Chains, all these bands that I just haven't sat down to listen to in decades. I don't know. I'm just getting a little sprinkle of the nostalgia, I guess.
Whenever we're going on family road trips, we end up listening to a lot of those types of playlists. So it's the one thing that all 4 of us have in common is like we will all listen to some 90s alt rock or grunge rock, the whole gamut of those bands in the 90s.
Yeah.
In conclusion, any upcoming events or things you're excited about?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a weird time of year.
Yeah, it's like I know in a few months there'll be something coming up, so that'll be like a next month's, things that are coming up. But for this month, man, God, I'm just looking forward to some peace and fucking quiet. Every weekend I've been like doing this thing. So I have the next like week or two where I'm like, you know what? Nothing. Today I woke up, I did my groceries like at 8 a.m, came home, took a nap.
I was supposed to have things going on this month or maybe early next month that I'm pretty sure aren't happening just because we've been dealing with a death in the family. I am finally getting back to South Carolina next month for the first time since I had surgery in February because I haven't been able to travel because of said surgery.
I have just put the reins on any events I have going. They're just gonna have to wait till next month.
Dragon Con.
You know? Yeah.
That's the next big thing on the horizon is Dragon.
Yeah, that's the next big thing is Dragon Con for sure.
We'll absolutely talk more about that once we get into the summer. And of course, always my infamous Drinkin' Con live stream.
Oh yeah. As Manny rolls in with his suitcase full of fucking beers.
Well, as we close out the episode, we once again want to give a huge thanks to our patrons for their support. Make sure to check out our other Geek Saga show series, including Media That Made Us. We just wrapped up our Battlestar Galactica coverage, and we will be covering Lord of the Rings extended editions only, guys, next. So definitely keep a weather eye out for us to schedule those. I mean, the first episode is scheduled on Wednesday, April 30th, and we'll be doing them every 2 weeks after that until we finish the total of whole 3 movies. But when I say like keep a weather eye out, I just mean follow me on social media at a Geek Saga to make sure you know when we're doing it. We've also got 90s and 90s Cringe Factor. Been a while since we've done one of those episodes because we've been so busy with all these other things. But yeah, we'll eventually get back into that when we have like a break between probably the Media That Made Us series and other things, and my Impulsive Hyper Focus solo episodes. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, or rate us 5 stars wherever you're watching or listening. And as always, also consider supporting us by backing our Patreon at patreon.com/geeksaga_entertainment.